the Qt4 libraries that Skype uses.
Okay.
And with 6.0, you have to install like individual libraries.
Okay.
And you have to run it from a script. You can't actually like use an app launcher for it. Which is kind of annoying because I have to save the damn script in the mouse pad, and every time I want to run Skype, I just open up the script and run it.
I see. Alrighty. Well, let me know whether.
Oh, and I figured out how to get that graphics card driver installed.
Okay.
So I have HDMI support in Squeeze.
Ah. Not too useful on the server.
No.
Nonetheless, it's good to have. All right. So I'm gonna start the class with the homework assignment that is due today, this morning. So last time I checked, it's still 30. Okay. So last time, it's still 37. So I want to see whether someone, just checked in at the last minute. So 37, still 37. Nobody's turning in by like the last minute. All right. So, and about 6 people did not turn in anything. So I'll go ahead and do the homework assignment and save it to a folder in case we want to have that folder available. For some reason, Google Chrome decides that it wants to stay on top all the time. So whenever I switch to another application, it doesn't want to stay switched. Today is the 5th. 300. I'm doing this so that when I save it, it will be into that folder. So right click, save the link into today's folder, and I'll keep the same name. Once I save it, I can just click here to open it. But I won't click the link itself, because if you click the link itself, it will open the document to read only. Then you won't be able to change it unless you use save as to save the document again. All right. So this is the pseudocode. It's actually doing the reverse of the find maximum pseudocode. This one will find the minimum instead of the maximum, if you have noticed. I will show this tab and then show the other one as new windows. Go ahead and resize the second one so we can show both at the same time. And we'll work with this one first. Okay, this is the precondition, which means I'm already telling you that when we start the execution of this program, x will start with a value of 2, y will start with a value of 4, and I want to find out what is going to happen when this program executes. So when you do the homework assignment, you have to follow the same convention that we use in class, which means when I say use sheet 2 to trace the algorithm, you have to put it on sheet 2 and not on sheet 1. Some people did that with the previous homework assignment. I only took a little bit of points off, not entirely, but this is how we want to do it: is to trace it on a separate sheet. So we start with line 1. Line 1 is not going to change x or y because it's only going to track down. It's only going to evaluate this Boolean expression here. Y is less than x. Is it true or is it false? It's false. Okay. So where do we go next?
2, 4.
We go to line 4. Okay, not line 2 because it is false. So we go to line 4. Line 4 is going to do something to z. What is it going to do with z? Z gets the value of x, and x has a value of 2. So that means z gets a value of 2. And then where did we go? Host. Exactly. We're done. Very good. So are there any questions about this particular test case? Yep.
Should we be making a habit not to fill in every single one of the?
I think it's just using up time unnecessarily. So I would just kind of use a blank space if you're not changing it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I take it back. When you're not updating, you leave it blank. There's a difference between changing it and updating, because an update can be the same value, so you can have an assignment statement of exactly the same value. You still have to record that event. But if it is not changing it at all, you can just leave it blank.
Okay.
I won't take any points off, either way. It's just, you have to spend the time to fill the in.
Right.
All right, this is the next test case. So same thing again, we start with line 1. Line 1 only evaluates a Boolean expression, y is less than x. Is it true or is it false?
False.
Yep, because they are the same. So it follows the same pattern as last time. We go to line 4, and on line 4, z gets updated to the value of x at that point, which is also 4. And then we are done. Post. And this is our last test case. So in our last test case, that's just annoying. In our last test case, we start with line 1 again, and we evaluate the condition y is less than x is true this time. And then where do we go next? Line 2. And what does line 2 do to z? It gets the value of y, which is also 4. And then what do we do after line 2? Post. Yep, exactly. So the most important point here is the condition will steer you to one of the 2 branches. But if you follow one branch, once you're done with that branch, you go all the way to the end of the entire conditional statement. Okay? Are there any questions of these test cases for this homework assignment? No questions? All right. So I'm going to save the file, so it's on my thumb drive now. And we'll move on to loops. There's one more conditional statement that we haven't really talked about. Okay, it's actually kind of a trivial one, but we'll go ahead and trace it just so that we know how to deal with it. Any questions? Questions? No? Okay. All right, so this is a really simple one. If x is greater than y, then x gets x minus 2. And if there's no else. So the question is, how do we deal with something like this? Okay, we have gone a little bit more complicated before by using the else if, else if. This one is simpler. So we'll just go ahead and play with this one a little bit, just so that we know how to deal with it. All right. So we got line number, comments, x, y. I have to give you a precondition because otherwise I cannot perform the comparison. So let's say x is 5 and y is 2 in this case. This is the easy one. So on line 1 we have to evaluate the condition. X is greater than y is true. Where do we go next?
2.
Line 2. And what do you think line 2 will do? X becomes x minus 2.
3.
So it becomes 3. And then where do we go next?
Post.
Okay, so this is the easy one. Let's go to another test case here. We've got comments, line number, x and y again. And this time, the precondition says that x has a value of 0, y has a value of 0 as well. On line 1, we evaluate the condition. X is greater than y is false. Where do we go next? There's no else. We go straight to post. In other words, if else is not here, it is the same as having else, except there's nothing in the else branch. Okay. In other words, this algorithm is the same as this one. Okay, let me just go back to here and say, and give you the equivalent form of this algorithm. So we have the same thing here for the then branch. I can use else and immediately say and if. It really is the same thing as this. And I'll call this line 2.5. So these two algorithms are functionally the same. One specifies no else, the other one specifies else, but there's nothing inside. Okay, are we okay with this concept? It's really just an abbreviation. For me personally, when I write a conditional statement, I always put in the else anyway. Okay, because just in case later on I need to specify for the else, I know where to put it. This may seem kind of silly, right? I mean, if I don't have anything to specify when the condition is false, why do I want to create an else branch that is empty, and use up space in the source code?
Well, it's a good visual for people who are looking at the code later.
It's visual for people who are looking at the code later, but it's also for adding the code if I need to add the code later on. A lot of times, a conditional statement, the else actually is meaningful. It's just that for the time being, I haven't figured out what to do with it yet. Now, you will also find in your next class in C++ that the syntax of a conditional statement is kind of tricky. Okay, it's very misleading. If you don't put in the else and an open curly brace and a closed curly brace, like ahead of time, and you want to specify the else branch later on, you can accidentally do something that you do not intend. And that's why I always put in the else and then the open curly brace and the closed curly brace. Yep.
Is else a marker?
Else is a marker, it's a separator. It separates the then branch from the else branch. So that's the real purpose of the word else, is to separate those two branches. Which sequence of statements belong to the then, which sequence of statement belong to the else.
Which ones are the keywords? If?
Yeah, if is a keyword in C, else is a keyword in C, and C does not have end if, which makes it kind of difficult to find the end of a conditional statement. All right, so that's all we want to talk about in terms of conditional statements. We are now ready to move on to talk about loops. So click this and start with loops. All right, so I'm expecting some of you to have, or most of you to have read this particular text here. So we'll just be going over the concepts today. At this point, before we talk about loops, we have assignment statements. Assignment statements are very important because it allows you to change the value of variables. And then we have conditional statements. Conditional statements, once again, are very important because it allows your program to make decisions. Okay, you have a condition, which is a question that can have one of the two answers, true or false. If it is true, you go one way. If it is false, you go the other way. So this way, your program can kind of choose what to do. But nonetheless, at this point, we don't have any way to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And is that important, being able to do the same thing over and over again?
Yes.
Why would you want to do something over and over again? Name one thing that you did this morning that is repetitive in nature.
Brushing your teeth, you have to do your teeth back and forth.
It's not just one stroke, right?
Yeah.
I'm done, like my kids, right? What else? Does anyone have any walking? Okay, because you have to repeat the motion. What about finding a parking space?
You have to drive around in the circles.
Yep. Okay.
Just to see if somebody opens up the spot.
And that certainly is repetitive, right?
Right.
All right. So all of those things are repetitive on a daily basis. We have to perform things that are repetitive. There are two types of loops in C, C++, and just about any programming language. Now there are some programming languages like Lisp and Prolog which does not have a concept of a loop. They have different ways of doing the same thing as of repetition, but it's not called a loop. But for all